Enforcement Stop, where we will discuss what a driver should do and your rights during an enforcement stop. No one likes being pulled over by a law enforcement officer. During an enforcement stop, the officer's priorities are your safety, the safety of your passengers, and the officer's own personal safety. Failure to stop when instructed by a law enforcement officer can result in your arrest. Let's review a few simple rules to ensure your traffic stop is safe and over quickly. A law enforcement officer will signal you to pull over in several ways, including any number of colored lights, flashing lights, hand signals, or with a loudspeaker. As soon as you realize that you are being pulled over, acknowledge the officer's presence by turning on your right turn signal. An officer may think you have a reason to avoid stopping or that you are impaired. Turning on your right turn signal tells the officer that you know they are there. Once you have turned on your signal, follow the steps to safely change lanes and move your vehicle to the right shoulder of the roadway. The officer will guide you using their patrol vehicle. Do not move into or stop in the center median of a freeway or on the opposite side of a two-lane roadway. Pull your vehicle as far out of the path of traffic as possible. On a freeway, move completely and safely onto the right shoulder, even if you are in the carpool or HOV lane. Stop in a well-lit area when possible. When it is dark, look for locations that have more light, such as areas with street or freeway lights, near restaurants or service stations. The officer needs your full attention to communicate with you, so make sure you end any phone conversation and turn off your radio. Never step out of your vehicle unless the officer directs you to do so. Exiting your vehicle without first being directed by the officer can increase your risk of being hit by a passing vehicle. Roll your windows down after you have stopped your vehicle and before the officer makes contact with you. Both you and your passengers should place your hands in clear view, such as on the steering wheel or on top of your lap and in clear sight. Let's review your rights during the enforcement stop. If a law enforcement officer asks your permission to do something, you have a right to say no. However, if you say no and the officer says they are going to do it anyway, you do not have a right to interfere with their actions. The driver of a stopped vehicle must produce a driver's license, proof of insurance, and vehicle registration when stopped by law enforcement. If a driver does not produce these documents, the officer may conduct a limited search for them. The officer may also request the names or identification of passengers. Passengers can decline that request, but under some circumstances, the passengers may be required to identify themselves anyway. If passengers do not want to produce their identification, they should clearly say so. Passengers should not interfere with the officer's duties in conducting the traffic stop, and if the officer demands identification, passengers should not interfere with the officer's actions. During a traffic stop, the officer can legally require the driver and all passengers to exit or stay inside the vehicle. If you are told to exit the vehicle or stay inside, you must do so. In California, only federal law enforcement officers can ask you about your immigration status. California law prohibits state and local officers from asking drivers or passengers about their immigration status. If a California law enforcement officer asks you about your immigration status, you can decline to answer. In general, the First Amendment protects the rights of drivers and passengers to record interactions with police in public spaces. If you are recording, you should immediately make that clear. You do not have a right to interfere with the officer's lawful duties during the enforcement stop, and you should not reach into concealed areas to retrieve your recording device without the officer's permission. In general, you also have the right to deny a request to unlock a cellular phone or provide a password to it. If your recording is not interfering with the officer's ability to lawfully do their job, an officer cannot confiscate your recording device, delete the recording, or destroy the device just because you are using it to record. Finally, no government employee can retaliate against you just because you recorded something in public. Even if you believe your rights were violated, you should not engage in physical resistance or violence against the officer. If the officer does something that you believe violates your rights, you can voice your objection, but you should not physically resist. Everyone has the right to be safe during a traffic stop. Your safety and the officer's safety could be jeopardized if the situation escalates with physical resistance or violence. All members of the public have a right to file a complaint against any peace officer or law enforcement agency and it is against the law for any government employee to retaliate against you for doing so. You can file a complaint with any agency that employs the officer. You have a right to be free from discrimination based on your actual or perceived race, sex, color, ethnicity, national origin, age, religion, gender identity or expression, sexual orientation, mental or physical disability, medical condition, or citizenship status. You also have other rights guaranteed by the United States and California constitutions, as well as California and federal laws. When you file a complaint, the agency that employs the officer must investigate the complaint. If you are stopped by a law enforcement officer and cited for a traffic violation, you sign the document as a promise to appear in traffic court. When you go to traffic court, you have a choice. You may plead guilty, not guilty, or you may pay the citation fine. It is up to you to make sure you appear on the future date indicated on the citation, or in some cases, you can plead guilty and pay the fine before the court date. If you do not keep your promise to appear in court, the failure to appear goes on your driver record, and the DMV can suspend your driving privilege. Now let's practice what you've learned with a few quiz questions. Select the titles located in the menu at the left of the screen if you would like to review any of the topics before beginning the end of section